Good morning, my dear students of class 10th. I welcome you all to this new class of Social Science 2, where we will be heading towards the last chapter of your entire syllabus for Social Science 2, which is Lifelines of National Economy. Wherein in the chapters we are going to study these topics. Let's start with the introduction. Now, children, as we all know, transport plays an important role in the economy. We all have been seeing primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector, where transport is a part of tertiary sector which aces up, which builds that support, which builds that connectivity and upliftment of the primary and secondary sector. So, because of transport, children, raw materials reach the factory and finished products reach the consumer. The pace of development of a country depends upon the production of goods and services as well as their movement over space. We all have studied the sectors of Indian economy. We all have studied, the importance of tertiary sector. Then we saw industries. That is why when we are clear with the basic concepts, how the goods are reaching the consumer, how the country's overall development is taking place, thus transport plays an important role in this. Therefore, efficient means of transport are prerequisites for fast development. It means, children, efficient means of transport means when you have good transport system, then you will get fast development in a country. Alright. Now, apart from transport, the ease and mode of communications, do we have just transportation to communicate to people? No, we have other modes of communication also, like telephone, internet. All these added communication features are making continuous flow of information possible. So with this, we are acing up the development of a country, children. Now we will see means of transport. Now, children, today India is well connected with the rest of the world despite its vast size, diversity, and linguistic and socio cultural plurality. This line means how well India is connected with other countries, no matter. Despite of means no matter we have so much of big size of country, then we have so many diversities, means we have so many differences in language, culture, religion, customs, everything. So, railways, airways, waterways, newspaper, radio, television, cinema, internet, etc. All these have been contributing to socio-economic progress in many ways. Children, we cannot have development of a country on just the basis of railways and roadways or airways. We need to have strong ways in the world of entertainment, in the world of tourism, in the world of radio, in the world of cinema. So we all are uplifting our country through these. Now, the traders from local to international levels have added to the strength of its economy. Children, we saw just before this chapter globalization, where we saw the coming togetherness of the countries was possible through this way only. So the traders are now getting interlinked, connected to other countries of the world, and hence when they are merging and shaking hands with different countries, when they are linking with different countries together, then ultimately they are strengthening their economy. Now, children, it has enriched our life and added significantly to growing services and facilities for the comforts of the life. Children, all these things are adding comfort to our life. We have good ways of communication, we have good ways of transportation. When we have so many things, we have strong connectivity. Now let us move to different modes of transport, wherein from the basics we all have been studying these basic modes of transportation: land, water, and air. Now let us start with land. What types of transportation you see in land? Railways, roadways, and pipelines. In waterways, inland and overseas water transportation. While air mode of transportation, we have domestic airways and international airways. All right. So this was the basic, you know, division classification of different types of transportation. Now let us see the roadways, children. India has one of the largest road networks in the world, you know, aggregating to about 2.3 million kilometers at present. So, in our country, India is having one of the largest total road network in the world. So, it is being counted in these, you know, on top countries, in the top countries of the world. Then, in India, roadways have preceded railways. You know, preceded railways means roadways have, you know, set back the railway system. We are now inclining more on roadways. Now they will have an edge over railways in view of the ease with which they can be built and maintained. They are saying railways are still given importance because of two motives. Can you see? With which ease, and they can build and maintain because of the ease and comfort which people find in traveling through road railways. There the railways are still being maintained. Now, the growing importance of road transport versus rail transport is rooted in the following reasons. This means why the demand for road transport is taking place. It is being explained in the following reasons. Construction cost of roads is much lower than that of railway lines. We all know laying down a railway track, you know, needs lot of cost. So roads can traverse comparatively more dissected and undulating topography. So roads can be built, you know, better in a better way because of the land topography than compared to railways. We can still have roads on steep slopes also, but we cannot have rail transportation over steep slopes, children. So topography also is major factor for laying down railway tracks. Now roads can navigate higher gradients of slopes. This I have explained. Then road transport is economical in transportation of few persons and relatively smaller amount of goods over short distances. Yes, you know, we have this favor when road transport is there. It is economically better for transporting a small amount of goods over distances. Now it also provides door-to-door service, thus the cost of loading and uploading is much lower because the road transportation are delivering the foods and the people also door to door. If we are going to visit some relatives somewhere, say in Gwalior, we will be going by our car and we will be getting down at that place only. Whereas when we will go by rails, we will go and get down at station, then we will hire an Uber, Ola or a prepaid taxi. So these ways we will be having much more cost than we can go directly through our car. So it is you know, economical also if compared to railways. So road transport is also used as a feeder to other modes of transport, such as they provide a link between railway stations, airports and seaports. Of course, one consignment has to be get down somewhere inside interior of the state, but the consignment is coming through waterways. Of course, the consignment has to be collected at the port, then it has to be transported through roads only. So roads are always acting as a connecting link between the air and sea transportation. Now, in India, roads are classified in the following six types: golden, national highways, state highways, district roads, other roads, and border roads. This is the map which is also given in your NCERT book, which is showing this huge detailed system. Now let us see the first type of road, golden quadrilateral. Now quadrilateral, you all know, the government has launched a major road development project in linking Delhi and Kolkata, Chennai, Mumbai and Delhi by 6 lane super highways. 6-lane super highways. Can you imagine 6 lanes parallel on one road, children? That is why this type of roads are known as golden quadrilateral. The north-south corridors linking Srinagar in Jammu and Kashmir and Kanyakumari in Tamil Nadu. Then east-west corridor connecting Sikhar in Assam and Porbandar in Gujarat are part of this project. So you see, with such long distance from north to south, Kashmir to Tamil Nadu and Gujarat to Assam, we have these golden quadrilaterals. The major objective of these superhighways is to reduce the time, distance between the mega cities. Children, earlier days when we were not having these flyovers connecting roads, we used to take lot of time while traveling to different places. But now once we have good modes of highways and we have so many flyovers, we can reduce our time of traveling and we reach our destination very early. So these highway projects are being implemented by the National Highway Authority of India. Remember the full form of NHAI. Alright. Now national highways. You all have come across with these signboards NH1. Alright, NH. National highways are always prescribed as NH. So national highways link extreme parts of the country. These are the primary road systems and are laid and maintained by the Central Public Works Department. A number of major national highways run in the north, south and east, west direction. Obviously, we have connecting highways which are national highways everywhere in all directions. Now, state highways. Again, the term is given national connecting different parts of the country. State highways. These highways are linking a state capital with different district headquarters are known as state highways within the state. Okay. So these roads are constructed and maintained by the State Public Works Department. When national highways, Central Public Works Department, state highways will be looked after by the State Public Works Department. It is very obvious, children. Now district roads. These roads connect the district headquarters within the district when you are going one place to another. Alright. When we are moving from Lucknow to Barabanki. Isn't it? So other roads which link rural areas and villages which are known as other roads. These are receiving special impetus under the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana. Now what about the roads which are connecting different villages? They are also roads. So again their head is Zilla Parishad or the Gram Yojana. So they are being looked after, their expenses are being looked after by Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana. So they are taking care of the maintenance of these roads. Now let us see border roads. Apart from these border roads organization, a government of India undertaking constructs and maintains roads in the bordering areas of the country. Obviously the name is giving you the meaning border, demarcating a border. From state to state we don't need to have border roads. Border roads are being maintained to have a classification of country where the land is attached with the other countries. We have the national boundaries. So they are border roads. Alright, so these roads have improved accessibility in areas of difficult terrain and have helped the economic development of these areas. Children, initially going there, reaching there was very difficult when the roads were not maintained. So once these roads are maintained, it is very easy to access. The Indian Railways is the largest public sector undertaking in the country. The first train streamed off from Mumbai to Thane in 1853, covering a distance of 34 kilometers. Concrete or even bitumen of coal, therefore these are all weather roads. Now, then what about the term road density? If it was that. Now let us see what is road density. The length of road per 100 square kilometer of area is known as road density. Details are given in the PPT, you can read. So now let us come to railways. After understanding roadways, let us now come to railways. Railways are the principal mode of transportation for goods and passengers in India. Railways are there to transport goods and passengers. नहीं मैम. So children, it is the basic motive of transporting goods and passengers from one place to other. Now railways also make it possible to conduct various activities like business, sightseeing, pilgrimage along with the transportation of goods over longer distances. Now let us take examples of these. We want to go for some pilgrimage, means Tirth Yatra, or some holy place, worshipping place. We will take railways. If we plan for vacation, that is sightseeing. If we want to dispatch our products to different states, then also we will have railways. So all these are well demarcating Indian railways. Apart from an important means of transport, Indian railways have been a great integrating force for more than 150 years. Integrating, connecting force. So children, railways are connecting from over different parts of the country, different people of the country from previously 150 years. Now, railways in India bind the economic life of the country as well as accelerate the development of the industry and agriculture. So children, they are binding economic life of the country as well as accelerate the development of the industry and agriculture. Of course, agriculture won't prosper without railways. We have to transport the raw materials, we have to transport the finished goods. So no ways trade and commerce is going to prosper if railways are not there, children. So Indian Railways, to make you understand, have a network of 7,031 stations spread over a route length of 63,221 kilometers. Now let us see development of railways. The Indian Railways is now recognized into 16 zones. The distribution pattern of railway network in the country has been largely influenced by physiographic, economic, administrative factors. Now let us understand this point. How development of railways is based on this point. We see so much of new improvisations, new construction of railway tracks. When we have construction of railway tracks, it is based on such following factors. You know, it should have, physiographic factors relatively. We should see that the land over which the railway track is built can have the burden of that railway track. It is suitable for railway construction. Then economic factor. Can we spend, do we have that money to, do we have that stability, can we afford that cost to lay down the railway track? And administrative factors. Of course, we cannot just lay down a railway track and let any train pass. We should have proper monitoring, we should have proper administration. Therefore, these factors are important for development of any railway track. We have laid down a track, we have spent so much of cost, but we cannot administer properly. So, do you think development of railways is going to take place? No. So, all these factors are equally responsible. Now, the northern plains with their vast level land we are speaking here because the northern plains, the plains are always referred to as flatlands, level lands. So they have population density, they have rich agricultural resources, provided the most favorable conditions for their growth. Of course, best physiographic condition, land is suitable, economically the land is suitable, and then we can have proper administration also. However, a large number of rivers requiring construction of bridges across their wide beds posed some obstacles. Now we all know this. This is a very basic factor. When we have bridges, construction of bridges across their wide beds, they place some obstacles because bridges cannot hold that huge density. So in the hilly areas of peninsular regions, railway tracks are laid through low hill gaps because high elevations railway tracks are not successful, they cannot be built. So lower hilly tracks, the railway tracks are being laid down. Now, the Himalayan mountainous regions too are unfavorable for the construction. Children, it is not just Himalayan, of course, in any country, high altitudes are not good for construction of railway tracks. Likewise, it was difficult to lay railway lines on the sandy plains also, because sand is not still. With one blow of wind, sand is going to transfer from one place to another. So sand is also not a good option for construction. Then children, the contiguous stretch of Sahyadri could be crossed only through gaps or passes. So Sahyadri Ghats, the the eastern Ghats and western Ghats now, so they are also difficult. In recent times, the development of the Konkan Railway along the west coast has facilitated the movement of passengers and goods in this most important economic region of India. Why children Konkan part of the Western Ghats, or if in general you talk about, is considered to be very important economic region, because Ghats are near the coastal areas where transportation, bulky seaways, waterways, airways and everything is there. That is why it is known as important economic region. Now, it has also faced a number of problems such as sinking of track in some stretches and landslides. If we are going to build the railway tracks on high elevations, then landslides are possibly there, and then we have so many of shortcomings or the errors in that. Now, next is, today, the railways have become more important in our national economy than other means of transportations put together. However, rail transport suffers from some problems as well. Many passengers travel without tickets. Now, this is a huge loss. Tickets and damaging of railway property has not yet stopped completely. We all have seen damage to our railway property, national property everywhere. It is not just railways, everywhere we see damage is being done. People stop the train, pull the chain unnecessarily, and this causes heavy damage to the railways. Now, children, one basic question is there for everybody. I don't know how many of you are listening to this video, but yes, those who are listening, one question for you. Why pulling the chain and stopping the chain is an offense now? Why punishments are being there to stop the chain? To stop the train by pulling the chain. So you need to give me this in the comment section, the answer to this. Okay. Now let us see the pipelines, another part of the road transportation. Now, in one important question certainly comes most of the times, advantages and disadvantages of pipeline transportation. Pipelines transport network is a new arrival to the transportation map of India. In the past, they were used to transport water to cities and industries. So earlier times, pipes were used only to transfer water. Now, these are used for transporting crude oil, petroleum products and natural gases. So all these are the benefits, children. All these are the benefits. So you need to learn them by heart. Okay. So these are all the benefits. So you will write, they are used for transporting crude oil, petroleum products and natural gas, uh, fields to refineries, fertilizers, factories and big thermal power plants. Now, the far inland locations of refineries like Barauni, Mathura, Panipat, gas-based fertilizer plants could be thought of only because of pipelines. So this is possible only through the pipelines. Initial cost of laying pipelines is high, but subsequent running costs are minimal. It rules out transshipment losses or damages. Now, do you see the uh, advantage and disadvantage is there in it, in this point only, initial cost, and then they are talking that it rules out the transshipment cost. So let us see, there are three important networks of pipeline transportation in the country. So from oil field in Upper Assam to Kanpur, from Salaya in Gujarat to Jalandhar in Punjab, gas pipeline from Hazaria in Gujarat connects Jagdishpur. So this can come for your map work, children. Okay, you can learn this for map work. Now waterways. Waterways are the cheapest means of transport. They are most suitable for carrying heavy and bulky goods. Since our class 543 we have studied this. It is a fuel efficient and environment friendly mode of transportation. Again, this is an advantage, children. Okay. Now, next, India has inland navigation waterways of 14,500 kilometers in length. Out of these, only 3,700 kilometers are navigable by mechanized boats. Now, the following waterways have been declared as national waterways. Let us look at those. The Ganga River between Allahabad and Haldia. The Brahmaputra River between Sadia and Dubri. The West Coast Canal in Kerala. Then the other variable inland waterways include the Godavari, Krishna, Barak, Sundarbans Canal, etc. Now let us see major seaports. With a long coastline of 7,516.6 km, India is dotted with 12 major and 181 medium and minor ports. So the major ports handle 95% of India's foreign trade. Children, we all have been having trade with other countries since ancient times. So these ports hold a lot of importance. It is not in today's time. From ancient times, these ports are taking care of the trade and commerce. Now, Kandla is a tidal port. It caters to the convenient handling of exports and imports of highly productive granary and industrial belt across the states of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat. Mumbai is the biggest port with a spacious, natural and well-sheltered harbour. Suppose a question comes, children. A question comes that name a port which is spacious, natural and has natural and well sheltered harbour, which is the biggest port. You will say Mumbai, market Mumbai. Again, the Jawaharlal Nehru port was planned with a view to decongest the Mumbai. Very frequently this question comes from map. Mention, mark and label the port which was planned with a view to decongest the Mumbai port. You will mark Jawaharlal Nehru port. Now, Marmago port in Goa is the premier iron ore exporting port of the country. This port accounts about 50% of India's iron ore export. Children, if you visit this port, it is very beautiful. I have not exactly gone inside this, but yes, from outer I have seen this very beautiful. Now, these are different ports of other important ports which you can have a look. I'm going to attach the PPT with the class so you can have a look. Now let us see Vishakhapatnam is the deepest landlocked and well protected port. This port was originally conceived as an outlet for iron ore exports. Again, question can come with the explanation, but you need to know which port is landlocked. Alright, which port is landlocked? You need to know it is Vishakhapatnam. Now, Paradip port located in Odisha specializes in the export of iron ore. Now, Kolkata is an inland riverine port. This port serves a very large and rich hinterland of Ganga Brahmaputra basin. Being a tidal port, it requires coastline dredging of Hooghly. Haldia port was developed as a subsidiary port in order to relieve growing pressure on Kolkata port. Now let us see the last part, airways of the three major ports of transportation. So the air transportation was nationalized in 1953. Then Air India provides international air services. Then Pawan Hans Helicopters Limited provides helicopters. These are some basic names which we are hearing from our childhood time. Indian Airlines operations also extend to the neighboring countries of South and Southeast Asia. Now, so the air transport was this much. Now let us see personal communication and mass communication, including television, radio, press, etc. Indian Post, the most important or the primitive times ways of communication. The Indian Postal Network is the largest in the world. It handles parcels as well as personal written communications. Cards, envelopes are considered first class mail and are airlifted between stations covering both land and air. We used to send our cards, everywhere within India and outside India. So you should know what are first class mails. You will say cards and envelopes. Important part, important question, children, for the communication part. So you should just learn this. I'm not able to find the marker now, so I cannot highlight, but please learn. The second class mail includes book packets registered and all right. So second class mails include books, packets, registered newspapers and periodicals. To facilitate quick delivery of mails in large towns and cities, 6 mail channels have been introduced recently. They are called Rajdhani channel. Again, question can come on these important points. Please learn, children, these points so that you know the basic 1 mark answer, children. Alright. Now let us see telephone. India has one of the largest telephone networks in Asia. In order to strengthen the flow of information from the grassroots to the higher level, the government has made special provision to extend 24 hours STD facility to every village in the country. There is a uniform rate of STD facilities all over India. It has been made possible by integrating the development in space technology with communication technology. Earlier, we were not having mobiles. We used to call our relatives somewhere in Maharashtra, Gujarat. We used to make STD calls. So STD was possible only with the improvement in space technology and communication technology. So we have prospered from the grassroots level. Children, we were not just, we are not here directly through this fastest means of social media. We have come across from the roots, from the basic level, children. Now, mobile telephones and films. India is one of the fastest growing mobile network in the world. Mobile phones have changed the way Indians conducted business. Yes, children, we all should be thankful to the advancement in mobile technology. We see everything is possible now. Shopping, then many things, sending your payments, transactions, everything is possible through mobiles. Now, online teaching, which is possible through mobile now. So we have gone too far now in the way of development. Now even low income group like vegetable vendors, plumbers, etc. can be connected through mobile phones. You call your grocery person, he will send you the articles and whatever you want, he will deliver it to you. So everybody is using a mobile phone in today's time, children. Now, India is the largest producer of feature films in the world. It produces short films, video, feature films, video, short films. We all know that India has been the largest producer of feature films. Something films which is featuring. It can be short, long, documentary, etc. The Central Board of Film Certification is the authority to certify both Indian and foreign films. So this organization certifies the films. Now let us see mass communication. Mass communication provides entertainment and creates awareness among people about various national programs and policies. So we all know mass communication, communication which is done to masses everywhere, everybody in one go. So we post one single line and it is now reached to the masses. So this is how we are communicating to masses. Earlier we were having print media, isn't it? We were having print media, electronic media. Electronic media was radio and television. Print media was newspapers, brochures, articles. Now, it includes radio, newspaper, magazine, etc. Like I have explained. All India Radio earlier, which was known as Akashvani, used to broadcast a variety of programs. Doordarshan, National Television Channel of India, is one of the largest terrestrial network in the world. So Doordarshan is considered to be the largest terrestrial, means from territory to territory it was connecting people. Now let us see newspapers. India publishes a large number of newspapers periodically, annually. Then, sorry, it is periodicals annually, largest number of. They are of different types depending upon. Newspapers are published in about 100 languages, children, 100 languages. Largest number of newspapers published in the country are in Hindi, then second English, and third is Urdu. Now let us see international trade. Trade between two countries is called international trade. You all have studied this in the previous chapter, globalization. Let us have a quick go through. It may take place through the sea, air, land routes. Advancement of international trade of a country is an index to its economic prosperity. It means when you are advancing in these trade, then only your country can prosper. It is therefore considered as the economic barometer for a country. Of course, barometer is a instrument used to measure. So, barometer here it is being referred to as to measure the rate of advancement. Now, export. When the goods are sent to other countries for sale, it is called an export. Import. When the goods come from other country to be sold in India are called import. Now, balance of payment, this is the difference between export and import of a country. When export is higher than import, then this is a situation of favorable balance of payment. Obviously, children, when we are sending more articles to different countries and we are getting payment in return, so this will have favorable balance of payment. Then on the other hand, when the import is higher than the export, this is the situation of unfavorable. Means we are spending money to purchase things from other countries. So that is not good. That is not favorable, children. So this is a detailed chart you can go through. Now bulk imports as a group registered a growth accounting for 39.09% of total imports. Then international trade has undergone a sea change in the last 15 years. Exchange of commodities and goods have been superseded by, by the exchange of information and knowledge. So they have been succeeded by, means they have taken over by. So earlier it was just exchange of commodities, now we have exchange of information and knowledge. India has emerged as a software giant at the international level and it is earning large foreign exchange through the export of information technology. We all saw that IT sector is getting so much of importance. That is the reason it is being referred to as software giant. Now tourism as a trade. Of course, children, tourism is basically when you go visit a place for your leisure time or you go and make a pilgrimage. Earlier there were no restaurants, there were no hotels, there were no motels. So now when a person is going out, the person tries to relax, enjoy, have a sightseeing. So all this is coming under tourism. Now tourism also promotes national integration. How you are getting national bond when you will visit Sikkim, when you will visit extreme places in south where you have different culture, different language, you don't even understand a word, but still you are going there, communicating, getting to know their culture, their customs. That is how you are sharing that bond. So this is bringing national integrity, children. It provides support to local handicrafts. When you will go there, obviously you will do shopping of that specialized articles. So you will promote that local handicraft. The people are going to build and the people are going to have more motivation for building more. Then we have development of international understanding about our culture and heritage. When people from different countries are coming to our place, obviously they are going to understand our culture, our diversity, our heritage. So children, this was all for today's chapter and with this we complete the entire syllabus. I repeat, with this we complete the entire syllabus of class 10 for social science 2. After this class, children, I will be revising the map work specially per chapter in the classes. So I hope the chapter is understood by you all. Please do the work very neatly in your registers. See you all in the next class. Thank you so much. Have a good day.